Formula One fans, the sensational clue just arrived. At Maranello, they're working heavily on Project 678, namely Ferrari's 2026 car. That piece by piece is taking shape. This isn't an evolution, it's a total restart. The first 678 chassis has passed static tests, and within a few weeks the front crash test will arrive. But the interesting point is another. Ferrari has decided to definitively close the pull rod chapter. In 2026, they return to push rod both front and rear, and there are sensational developments that change everything. Ferrari seems to have adopted a solution McLaren already introduced courageously 2 years ago. It's a detail that changes everything. The steering being moved behind the lower triangle. It's not a return to the past, it's a lateral jump. According to internal rumors, the steering arm will be moved behind the lower triangle, exactly as McLaren did on the MCL 39 and as Mercedes then copied. It's a solution that complicates internal packaging and grouping, but opens a world in aerodynamics. Tondi and Sanchez are working on that philosophy to free up flows, obtain a cleaner and more stable front end. McLaren, with that choice, built part of its advantage. And now Ferrari wants to follow that winning road. At the rear, the situation is even more significant. Ferrari abandons the modified rear pull rod that was introduced in Belgium, and that theoretically should have saved the season. It didn't. In fact, it worsened the balance. Even Mercedes, which had tried a similar philosophy before Ferrari went back. At Maranello, they would have done the same, but the budget cap froze everything. For 2026, they can't afford compromises. Everything will change. Also because the gearbox casing must be redesigned. The transition to rear pushrod requires a completely redesigned gearbox casing. The internal suspension parts get moved higher compared to the SF25, and this opens two challenges. The first is weight. Ferrari must remove kilos everywhere to reach the famous 768 kilogram limit. The second point is rigidity. The casing must remain super light without losing torsional stiffness. They're searching for new materials, hybrids, intelligent ones. No extremism, no crazy ideas. A much more McLaren philosophy, fewer risky refinements, more project coherence. The central knot is active aerodynamics and drag resistance. The 2026 regulations will completely change how Formula One cars drive. There will be movable wings front and rear, thermal and hybrid engine with same power and new batteries, but above all, the power unit won't be able to guarantee full maximum charge on straights. Translated, whoever has less drag will have an enormous advantage. And here Ferrari wants to restart from a simple concept. No extremes, a car that penetrates air well without weak points. Maybe it won't be the most extreme, but it will be consistent. Enrico Cardile said it clearly. The 678 isn't born to be a laboratory, it's born to be a 100% integrated project. Without packaging compromises like the SF25, because the SF25 was a structural compromise. The 2025 car was designed with very compact radiating masses to reduce bulk, excellent on fast circuits, but a disaster on slow and hot ones. The cooling slits heavily dirtied the flows. The 678 must avoid those errors, and everything must be coherent. Suspensions, chassis, gearbox, aerodynamics, batteries, weight distribution. Regulations say minus 30 kilograms compared to ground effect cars, but the power unit adds 30. The result is 60 kilograms less than before needed. Madness, considering 2026 tires will be lighter, but not enough to compensate. In short, Ferrari's philosophy for 2026 remains stability before brilliance. In the first year of revolutionary regulations, whoever risks too much crashes, whoever is conservative wins. The 678 wants to be this: a car without holes, without structural weaknesses, with clean balance. A car born with architecture to evolve, not to correct. Ferrari wants a project that works always everywhere, that allows developing performance without chasing desperate solutions mid-season. The keyword is coherence. The 678 will be a completely new puzzle, but finally built all in the same direction. And yes, it's fundamental for next year to have a predictable car that works on track and respects simulator expectations. And from the simulator come sensational signals. Hamilton and Leclerc reportedly approved the 2026 car. According to multiple internal sources, the latest SF26 project version convinced both drivers during simulator sessions. We're not talking about it goes better. We're talking about more stable response on corner entry, more predictable rear end, much wider aerodynamic window, and coherent behavior tire by tire, things practically never seen on the SF25. Leclerc, who a few months ago couldn't find feeling with the new regulation simulation, now reportedly gave opposite feedback. The car finally seems logical. Hamilton, for his part, reportedly appreciated how the car reacts to load changes, how it communicates to the driver what it's doing. And this is a fundamental detail. In recent years, Ferrari had produced cars that hid limits until it was too late. The new 2026 car reportedly seems much more transparent, much more honest toward the driver. This doesn't mean Ferrari will be 2026 favorites, also because many voices indicate Mercedes as the team best positioned on new regulations. But it means the red car is there and finally is developing a car that seems to work in its driver's hands. But there's also another sensational development. Behind the scenes, Ferrari reportedly is reorganizing following the path of so-called stronger compartmentalization, with more fragmented information, limited access, and less extreme data sharing between departments. It's an important philosophy change. Ferrari wants to propose a slightly less communicative design style in initial phases between various compartments, but more efficient and pragmatic when it's time to put everything together. Hypothesizing 3 development areas, each will work optimally to produce an excellent final output without considering positive or negative influence of other areas. And attention to new Pirelli 2026 tires that are still partially unknown. The boldness, the brilliance of what Ferrari will do at suspension triangle level will depend on Pirelli 2026 tires. That understanding process restarts from zero that leads you to have a car with low degradation. It makes you warm up tires a certain way and allows excellent qualifying lap preparation, which in recent years has become increasingly important. However careful, it's not that today's Formula One called Formula tires is different from 30 or 40 years ago. 3 or 4 decades ago, the same concepts existed anyway. And there's another sensational piece of information about Barcelona tests. According to some uncontrolled voices, it seems some of the 11 teams will have next year, I remind you. Cadillac's debut will present themselves in Barcelona with a beta car version. Beta particularly regarding aerodynamic dress. The discourse is very simple. The power unit is a critical element. Some say someone might even have problems leaving the garage. So some teams reportedly intend presenting themselves in Barcelona with definitive power unit, but with aerodynamic dress still with a big question mark. Either for strategy or because it would still be in definition phase. Why all this? Because aerodynamically, many teams might not be ready, but above all might want to keep hidden solutions. They don't want copied by others. What's the distance between Barcelona and Bahrain tests? About 2 weeks. Perhaps sufficient for someone to copy a particular that could prove useful. That's why hiding until the last useful moment and showing the real car only in Bahrain. But it's clear that interpretation of all this is still debatable. If I think about Mercedes W13 experience from 2022, the side podless one that according to someone should have been 2 seconds faster than all others. Well, this type of strategy in the past hasn't brought particular fortune. But careful that for 2026 having a competitive car alone won't be enough. Others are also developing heavily on next year's car, and we don't know what competitors' level will be. But one thing is certain, it's extremely important to have both drivers at 100% and a car that works immediately. The feeling is Ferrari understood the lesson. Correcting a wrong base was no longer enough, a total restart was needed. And at least from first data, this restart resembles much more a leap forward than a simple reset. 2026 will be the year we discover if the Hamilton-Leclerc era has a real future or will remain an unfulfilled promise. For now, from the simulator arrives a clear signal. The Ferrari 678 pleases those who must push it to the limit. This is the Ferrari revolution.